Hi! Innovation is today's buzzword. Have you ever wondered what does it mean when somebody says that person is innovative? Hmm? How is this seen as good? How can being innovative help our career? Can innovation and having an innovative mindset be developed? Or is it inborn and we can't do anything about it? Well, that's what we're going to talk about over the next couple of hours. Coming right up. Thank you so much. Welcome to today's workshop. I think it's fair to say that most of us don't wake up early in the morning and tell ourselves we need to be more innovative, we need to be more creative. In fact, most of us are not conscious about being more innovative. Right? I don't have any clients that come to me and say, Ewan, please coach me, please teach me to become more innovative. Essentially, it is an approach, right or not? Being innovative is an approach to the way we do things. Okay? But the thing here is this impacts on how other people see us, how other people perceive us. Being innovative can enhance our reputation. It can also help our career. So we can actually develop habits to have that frame of mind that allows us to be creative, to do new things or do things in a very different way. And that's what I'm going to try and suggest to you over the next couple of hours. Okay? So welcome to today's workshop, Developing an Innovative Mindset. 2 o'clock, which is now, until about maybe 4 or 4 plus or so. Right. As the opening intro suggests, I am a practicing career coach. My name is Ewan, by the way. Right? I've been being a career coach on my own for over 7 years now, in fact. As far as workshops are concerned, this workshop is basically one of many that I conduct, and I have actually been doing this for WSG for over 4 years now, almost 5 years. Okay, and the other workshops that I do, right, are those that you see popping up here. Now, those of you who are interested in future workshops that I'm going to do, towards the end of today's session, I'm going to put up a schedule and a way that you can register for this. So stay tuned for that. Okay. Now, apart from doing workshops, I am also an e-course creator. So I've created a course on how you develop your confidence in making a career switch, because career switching is basically my specialty. Most of my clients actually come to me and ask me, Ewan, based on what I see what you have done and what I've heard from you, I'd like you to help me make an effective career switch. So that's what I specialize in. Right? The other thing I do is essentially train other people to become career coaches. So this is 2023, and to date, I've actually trained almost 700 people to become coaches or advisors through various programs and such. Okay, so if you're interested to hear more about this, stay tuned towards the end and I can talk to you more about it. Okay, right. So today's workshop, developing an innovative mindset. Okay, essentially what we are trying to do for today is to look at the W's, the H, and the T. Okay, why is this important? What is actually an innovative mindset? Okay, how do you develop it? And then some tips on how you can demonstrate this in your career, in your job search. Okay, so we're going to talk about this. One of the things underpinning whatever I'm going to share with you, and in fact, in all my workshops, is this thing that we need to do to be proactive. In other words, we need to get off the butt of our seats, all right, and do things rather than being too passive about the way we look at our career. Okay, so that's the underpinning ethos of whatever I'm trying to tell you or I'm trying to share with you. Okay, so please, I hope you can start with that mindset. Now, the last time I did this workshop was actually in early December. So since then, actually, a lot of things have happened. Okay, more particularly is this so-called thing called Chatgpt. I don't know whether you all know about Chatgpt. Okay, essentially, it is an AI and it's taken the world by storm at the start of January or in fact, maybe end of December, it started already. Okay. And since then, I've actually been fielding a lot of questions about how do we cope with all this, the AI, the technologies. How do we cope with this? How do we protect ourselves from this? Okay. So I thought I'd share a bit of my thoughts and what I've seen happen, not only with this ChatGPT, but also through the last few years when new technologies were introduced. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this, right? So this is something new from the thing that my last workshop in December. So for those of you who have attended that workshop, so look out for this, because this is something that I think, it's worthwhile talking about in at least some detail, right? Because, it seems to be at the top of many people's minds. Okay, right. So today's topic, essentially quite a few to cover. Right now, given that we have only maybe just over 2 hours to do all these things, okay, so there are a few, I would say, logistical things I need everyone to be on board with. Okay, so firstly, I think I am not able to give you long coffee breaks or maybe too many breaks in between, but I definitely will give you maybe at least a 5 or 10 minute break somewhere in the middle of this session. So probably about three plus or so. Okay. And you will notice that all of you are muted. Okay. Which means that, you are not able to turn on your mic and ask me questions directly. I've done this because, based on past experiences, given the number of people that we expect today, now it's already close to 70. Okay, is that sometimes people inadvertently switch on the mic, right, and it distracts everyone. So I'm putting it on mute. However, if you want to ask any questions, please feel free to type it into the chat box, but preface this with a capital letter Q. Okay, I will answer your questions after the end of every section you see here. And I will do that by scanning the chat box and see, oh, there's a Q there. That means there's a question or answer to that. Okay. Now, as much as possible, I'll answer questions related to the section that I've just talked about. However, if there is a question, there is a big question that maybe involves everything else, then I'll probably answer that towards the end of the workshop. Now, typically, I try and finish at about 4 o'clock. Okay, so, and most of the time, around that time when people ask questions, it's not just only related to this topic here, but also to jobs and careers in general. So I'll deal with that. Okay. Now, another reason why I will be leaving all the major Q&A towards the end of each section is that I will be actually editing out these in the recording. Now, you will know that I'm recording this workshop, okay? And the recording has basically a major purpose. Those of you who are interested in getting a link to view this webinar, all right, stay until the end, because that's where I'm going to tell you how you can get access to this link. Okay, so that will only be given towards the end. So please don't ask me halfway through or whatever, how do you get the recording? I'll only talk to you about it towards the end. Okay, now in this recording, I'm going to edit out all the Q&As for privacy purposes as well. Okay, so that's the thing here. Okay, so is this okay the way I'm doing it? If it is, please type into the chat box that you're okay with this process, or if you've got any concerns, please type into the chat box and ask me everything, whatever concerns you have. Okay, great. So everybody's good with this. So we are now over 70 people. There were actually about 100, over almost 170 that signed up. So I think for those of you who have come in on time, I'm going to start on time just to respect your time. Okay. All right. So let's do this. Let's deal with the first question. Okay. Why? Why do we want to develop an innovative mindset? So in other words, why are you here? Why do you think this topic is important for you? Can you type into the chat box? Why are you here? Why do you think this topic is important to you? Can you type into the chat box and let's take a look at what your thoughts are? Okay, creative ways to make changes. All right, be creative. What else is there? The world is changing. We have to keep changing as well to be more productive, to be more efficient. Yeah, innovation for survival. Wow, that's a strong word. Right? Have a better understanding. Growth mindset brings us new frontiers. I like that. Accept the changes. Keep up with the times. I like all those comments. Very good. Very good. In essence, whatever you have just mentioned there, right, is basically you want to be what? Future proof. Right now. You want to protect yourself from any changes that possibly may come. Because the future, the saying goes, the future is now. It's happening. Okay? So many ways to be future proof, but underlying all this is really looking at how we approach problems, how we approach issues. And the way we approach issues is having a different way of thinking from the way we did before. Okay? Now, you may have seen this particular studies. It was done by SSG just a couple of months ago. Essentially, what's it saying here? If you look at the paragraph, okay, it pulls out a little paragraph that says there are some critical core skills we all need to have. And they've listed down creative thinking as one of those really core skills. Okay? So, again, another indication that this is something that probably, it may not be at the top of your mind, but it certainly will help you. Okay. So much study, so much talk has been mentioned about how technology, changes in technology have impacted us. In fact, most studies have said that more than 50% of the jobs are either lost or altered significantly by automation or technology changes. Right? I think all of us have faced that personally as well. Now, so I'm going to talk about this new thing that, I've mentioned earlier, which I didn't talk about in December, is this thing about Chatgpt. Chatgpt. Those of you who are not familiar, if you are not familiar by now, I suggest you really go and Google and find out more about this. What is it all about and what does it do? So the next few slides, I'm just going to talk, how should I put it, in more direct relevance to people who are job seekers who are more concerned about their careers. Okay. Now, those of you who know or have heard about ChatGPT, how did you feel when it was first launched? How did you feel when it was first launched? Do you think it was something that was really good, accelerates the things that we do? Or is it something that, like this guy said, I don't know, man, I think it's something that I'm going to be very worried about? What do you guys think? Can you type into the chat box? What were your thoughts when you came to know what ChatGPT was? Somebody said, Carol said, amazed. Yeah, it's an amazing tool, right? What else? What about the rest of you? How did you feel about this new technology? You replace many jobs. Fair enough. I think that's what a lot of people are thinking. Useful, helps research, worry, impressive but worrisome, right? I like this, useful tool to aid me. Yeah. So a lot of people have mixed feelings about this, right? Those who would like to use things, use tools. Students would like to help to write essays. Okay. Yeah. Right. But those of you may have been worried. Okay. May be thinking, how would this put my job at risk? How would this put my job at risk? Then consequently, if you think that way, right, how can I protect my career? How can I protect my career? Right? But I will also suggest you need to ask the question in the yellow box. The question in the yellow box is, what opportunities have been created as a result of this tool? What jobs have been created? Okay, I need you to think, or yes, there is concerns, but there are also opportunities. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the jobs at risk first. Okay, so in order to understand what jobs are at risk, and this approach applies to any new technology, yeah. So it's not just about ChatGPT, but this approach applies to any new technology. In order to understand what jobs are at risk, we need to know what this tool is good at. Okay, so in this case, we use ChatGPT. What is ChatGPT good at? What is it good for and what is it good at? Can you type into the chat box? What do you think, those of you who are familiar with this or have played around with this or read about this, what is it good at? Can you type into the chat box? Some say language. What else? It's good at improving language. Okay, the writing skills. Okay, it can help us write. collate data, find a solution. How does it find a solution? That's interesting, right? So maybe you ask questions, it's good at answering questions, summarizing data, generating content. Yeah. So I think, that's the approach we need to look at first. We need to look at, all right? When we are looking at new technology, first thing we need to understand, what is it good at? Okay. So some of these pointers here I've actually dug up. I've used ChatGPT a few times, so I'm not the expert in it, but I've looked up articles on ChatGPT. Many people have written on this, and these are some of the things that they wrote. It's very good at answering questions. So it's like a chatbot, right? Essentially, it is a chatbot, okay, but a very sophisticated chatbot. Okay, so it's very good at answering questions, right? In some instance, it can create content. So you ask them to create something, they generate the content for you. Okay? It's very good at rewriting things. Correct or not? So if you give them, let's say, your CV or whatever, LinkedIn profile, they can rewrite things for you. Okay? Even advertisements. It can debug codes and it can create new codes as well. Right? It's very good at manipulating data. Manipulating basically meaning, it can summarize, it can pull data from a large table and all that. Okay. So based on just some of these things that ChatGPT is good at, what do you think, what are the jobs that are at risk? What jobs would have all these things, would involve all these tasks? Can you type into the chat box? What jobs do you think involves all these things in the day-to-day activities? Anyone? You type into the chat box. What jobs would involve all this? Content writer, copywriter, anything else? Junior programmer, analytics, possibly, yeah. Data analyst, yeah. Any others? A software engineer, okay. Right, we are getting a hang of this, right? Public relations, I like that because copywriting and all that, right? Public relations, translator, yes. Teachers, tutors, that's an interesting topic there in itself already. Okay, administrators as well. Well, maybe some aspects of administration. So many people have said the jobs that are at risk essentially could fall into these categories because these jobs tend to do a lot of those stuff that ChatGPT is good at. Okay, so you've got coders, programmers, media jobs are basically basic copywriting, maybe content creators, paralegal jobs, right? So those people who do typing and do record keeping and filing and all that, right? Or maybe drafting and redrafting. Okay, market research analysts, financial analysts. Some say traders, some say accountants. Wow, some say customer service, and some say teachers. Think about this. Okay, those jobs, many people say are at risk. But if you think about it, actually there are ways around this. There are ways around this. So next question we then ask ourselves is this: how do we protect our careers? How do we protect our careers? Okay. Now, in order to understand how do we protect our careers from something like ChatGPT or the chatbots or AI or whatever, is to understand what they are not so good at right now. I'm not saying that they are never going to be good at it, but what are they not so good at right now? Do you know what they are not so good at right now? If you know, please type into the chat box. What is ChatGPT not so good at right now? It may change maybe a few months' time, but what is it that are not so good at right now? Can anybody try? No EQ. Okay. Calculation, interesting, right? Maybe, yeah. Relationship, PSLE math, emotional connection, no graphics. Wow, that one has changed already, Billing. Now they're actually generating graphics already, the new improved one. Okay, but that improved ChatGPT is not free. You have to pay for it. Okay, cannot make decision, no emotion, no empathy. You got it there. Okay, so essentially, the problem that ChatGPT, the limitations or the restrictions of ChatGPT right now, okay, at this point in time is that first of all, the data is not so current. Okay, if I'm not mistaken, they say the data is only limited up to 2017 or 2011. I can't remember the exact one. Okay, so currently now there's no current data, not current data. It cannot detect context. When I say context, It basically means it's like it cannot detect your emotional state. It cannot detect why are you asking that question. It cannot detect, what you are thinking behind your question, right? So it can't detect context. So many of you have mentioned that already. Okay. Now, because it is going after public information and it is maybe not so current information, okay, it is sometimes giving you information or data that is not correct. And sometimes many people have detected that it's actually biased in the way it gives the information because it is pulling from public information. Okay, so it can be misinformed, it can be biased. So you got to be aware. So ChatGPT doesn't give you the correct answers all the time. Okay, it cannot multitask. That's interesting, right? You thought that automation AI can multitask, but some people say they cannot multitask. Okay. The content is not original. Why do we say that? Well, because it is pulled from public sources. Note this word public sources. Okay. And really, the information that it generates is really dependent on how you ask the question. It's dependent on how you ask the question. Okay. So now that you know some of the limitations of ChatGPT, what do you think? What do you think you need to do to protect your career in the face of something like this? What do you guys think? Maybe type into the chat box. What do you think you need to do in order to protect yourself from something like this? Any ideas? Or is it you give up? Say, I can't protect. It's going to be taking over. Upgrading with new knowledge and skills. Yok Yin, good. But what type of knowledge, what type of skills, which I'm going to allude to later on. What else? How else can we protect ourselves? Continual learning, yeah, okay. We need to know what we got to learn, right? What other things? How to use ChatGPT to our advantage? Very good, Chloe. How to use ChatGPT? Innovative mindset, cross-checking reference, okay. Be good in areas that ChatGPT is weak at. Okay, so we've listed down there. But more specifically, what do you think? More specifically, how can we protect our careers? Okay, if you look at all the constraints right now ChatGPT is faced with, okay, there's some no, there's some things that it's quite important that we do in our current careers, in our current job, to protect ourselves against something like this. Okay, what are these? This is a time where we need to understand our customer or the people that we serve. Okay, remember what I said? ChatGPT doesn't know the context. It doesn't, and many of you said that they don't have empathy. They don't understand the real situation. So, you should pay more attention to who are the people you are helping, the people that you are servicing, your customer, inverted commas, so to speak. Okay, so this is a chance for you to do that. So, which means focusing on building relationships. Okay, so in your career, in your job, relationships, connections, how you interact with people becomes all the more important already. Right? This is a chance for you to show your personal side of things, your ability to empathize, your ability to have compassion and help people. Okay, ChatGPT cannot do that, not at the current moment anyway. All right. This is important, right? Because ChatGPT draws data from the public. Okay. What does it mean? It basically means that the information, the data that you provide, let's say if you are in a role that is in the job of providing information, providing data, by understanding your customer, you are able to customize what information is relevant to them. Okay, what data is relevant to them. Okay, for the teachers out there, for the instructors out there, for people like me who is doing things like this, right? Use AI, use ChatGPT to try and augment not only your learning, but your students' learning as well. Okay? Obviously, and I think many of you have talked about this, learn how to use ChatGPT. Learn how to use this. Okay? And this one is important as well. It comes back to this notion of ChatGPT taking data from the public source. Now, there are a lot of data that is not available to public, right? So that's why investigative information that you can only find out if you dig deeper, if you imply, you link and all that, right? Those become your source of the pot of gold, because ChatGPT is unlikely to be able to access that type of data because it is not public, right? And this thing I always talked about, you have to let people know who you are, your own personal branding, what you are good at. In other words, how you solve other people's problems, how you help other people. Okay? So these are just some of the ways that I'm strongly suggesting for you. You know, if you want to protect your career against something like ChatGPT, or in future, any other AIs. Okay, Microsoft has already introduced from the Bing chatbot, I think. And then just yesterday, Google has launched its Bard, okay, another variant, something similar to ChatGPT. So it's coming already. Okay, so we need to do things to be able to protect ourselves. Okay, so what jobs basically will survive AI automation? Essentially, jobs that are safe typically requires a combination of these three things: social intelligence, creative intelligence, and then the way we can determine things that's in front of us, our human senses. Sometimes human senses is not just the thing that we see or hear, but sometimes the way we feel, the way we detect how people behave. Then we kind of guess that, oh, they are feeling like this, that sort of thing. Okay, so some people have written down here that says that, maybe these three groups of jobs, for example, can survive AI automation for now. Okay, so STEM jobs, okay, creative jobs, jobs that require original content. So copywriting, right, is really more about all the new ways of coming up with original content. Okay, then emotional IQ. Okay, nurses, doctors, therapists, teachers here. Okay, when I say emotional IQ, teachers have a role to help weaker students. So the interaction, the people, is something that has come up as well. Okay, now, so any questions at this point? Any questions at this point? Okay, I saw one question. Somebody was asking me whether I shared the peer support and free counseling sessions. Yes, I have in the slideshow. Okay, but I will also be sharing this towards the end as well. Okay, all right. Okay, no questions. All right, so then let's talk about this. Okay, there's one question here. Did these safe job come from ChatGPT? No, it did not come from ChatGPT itself, right? I did a search, right? And basically it is about the generative. But I have got another slide that actually shows what type of jobs are created by ChatGPT. Maybe that's more interesting, which I'll come to this. Okay, now since we're talking about job creation, I want to sort of bring you back to what has happened in the past, all right? To give you an example of what potentially could happen in the future. Okay, so in the past 5 to 10 years, what were some of the jobs that did not exist before? In the last, maybe recent 5 to 10 years, what do you think were some of the jobs that are happening now but did not exist as recent as maybe 8 to 10 years ago? What do you guys think? What were some of the jobs that just didn't exist before? Cybersecurity, influencers, anything else? AI related jobs, yeah, like maybe some examples, AI related jobs, yeah. Okay, social media marketing, YouTuber, yeah. Okay, so essentially new jobs that were created in the past as a result of technology changes, right, were things like this that you see here. Although now to us, these have become the norm, right? Especially those new people who've just come into the workforce. These are probably new normal to them already. But to us, people who have been in the workforce for a longer time, 12, 10, 15, 20 years, right? These are new. We've never seen these type of careers before. Okay, now Those of you who have been to school and just graduated recently or who are currently in school, you will also see new fields, right? New academic fields, new industries has come up because of technology. Okay. So all these things, all of them have something in common. What do you think they have in common? If you look at all these, like the new jobs, the new academic fields, the new industries, what do all these things have in common? What do you guys think? What do they all have in common? Any ideas? What do they all have in common? Well, some say technology, digitalization, fixing, okay, science related. Could be. But essentially, if you look at it, it is actually a combination of different disciplines to solve problems. All right, they combine different disciplines. All right, essentially, that's what it is. Okay, so now if we look at ChatGPT, okay, so this is an article which I will share with you. Let me just share that article with you. Let me see. All right, essentially, the article basically says that there's been an explosion in terms of the number of people inquiring about jobs related to the use of AI, to the use of AI. Okay? So essentially, what it's trying to say here is this: there's just so many new opportunities that are also created as a result of this new tech. Okay? Many people are looking to people who know how to use this new technology, who know how to use this new technology. Okay? So there's a whole host of products and services that's going to be built around the use of this tool like ChatGPT, right? Like a ChatGPT consulting service. I don't think they will call it that, right? Because there's going to be some new ones coming out. But no, basically asking people, how do we use this? How can you help your company or other people's company in optimizing the use of this tool to help them be better, to help them serve their customers? Okay, so you think about it. Opportunities created is actually something that will always happen with new technology. Yes, there will be some jobs at risk and we can mitigate it somehow, but instead of being focusing on the jobs at risk, why not then look at how can we leverage on this such new tech? How can we leverage on such new tech? Okay, so in essence, if you look at this, why is developing an innovative mindset important for us is because it helps us future proof ourselves. It helps us future proof ourselves, right? You can solve more complex problems. Okay, you can compete in the global economy. It's no longer a local economy, right? You are more inclined to use new technology, more inclined to use new technology, right? To help yourself, to help other people. Okay. And because you are able to do all this, you become an asset to anyone that hires you. You become an asset to anyone that hires you. Right? So hopefully now you have a better understanding of why having a creative or innovative mindset really will help you. Let's then go on to what is an innovative mindset? What are the signs of an innovative mindset? What are the signs of an innovative mindset? Okay. First thing first, I want to ask all of you, when somebody tells you, wow, that person, Ivan, is very innovative, what does he mean? What does it mean? What do people mean when they say, hey, that person is very creative, very innovative? What does it mean? What are the signs? Can you type into the chat box? What does it mean to you? Okay, some say forward thinking, can think outside the box. What else? Any other lots of ideas. I like that. Lots of ideas. Solution focus. Okay, very good. That means solving problems, right? Do things differently. Able to solve problems. Improve on how things are done currently. Yes, yes, very true. Yeah. So, in other words, what are the signs? Essentially, if you look at it, people who have that, when you say someone is very innovative, it's usually they display these signs. they're always seeing new possibilities and new opportunities, right? They're not constrained. They feel that, wow, the cup is half full. Let's do something. Okay. They're very creative. They like to experiment. They like to try new things. Okay. Many of you have said this. They do things differently from the norm. In fact, they sometimes feel that they are not very happy with the way things are done in a normal way. So they try and do something differently. And essentially, and a couple of you have mentioned this as well, they combine all this, they seem to find a way to solve problems, no matter how difficult it is. They seem to find a way actually to solve things that maybe many people don't know how to do. Okay? So if you look at this, do you know of any examples personally or people that you read about that have got that type of thinking? Can you type in the chat box? Who are the people that you know or you have read about that have demonstrated that way of thinking, that way of looking at things differently, that way of solving problems, being creative, and all? Do you know of anyone? Can you type in the chat box? Okay, you've got Steve Jobs, LKY. Great, your dad. Excellent, Shalini, sorry. Who else? Anybody that maybe that's currently alive, for example? Anybody? Okay, Nikola Tesla. Okay, Mark Zuckerberg. Okay, Mark Z. I'm jumping. I'm sure Elon Musk. Okay, right. So anybody in Asia, though, anybody in Asia that you think is demonstrating such way of looking at problems, such way of thinking? Anyone? It's only in Asia. Yeah. What about the founder of Jack Ma? That's right. 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 Although maybe now he's a bit low key, but when he started his business, wow, he started even at university, right? Grab founder, excellent. Now Grab is more like a technology company rather than a transport company, right? Very good. Now, me personally, my idols, right? When I grew up, right? In fact, still my idol right now are basically people that fictional characters. Okay, they are my idols because I grew up reading about them and then following their exploits, and now I'm watching movies about them. Okay, so my idols who I feel are very innovative, very creative, was Batman or AKA Bruce Wayne, and Iron Man or AKA Tony Stark. Okay, now all these people that you mentioned and all my two fictional characters that I feel is very creative, very innovative. What do you think they have in common? What do you think they have in common? Can you type in the chat box? All these people that you've mentioned in the chat box and all, what do you think they have in common? Tenacity. I like that, Susan. They have tenacity. What else? Is that the only thing they have in common? What else? They have resilience. Yeah. Innovative. Anything else? They have gadgets. Where do they get the gadgets from? Visionary. I like this. They learn from failures. I really like this one, Jacqueline. Very good. Determination, fearless. Wow, that's a very good F word. I like to use the F word. Mentors. Yeah, they mentor. They have mentors. They probably mentor other people, but they probably have their own mentors. Okay, so essentially, if you look at this, the things that these people have in common is that not only do they look at the big picture, but they also are able to look at what are the linkages between certain things that's happening. Because as we all know, right, the butterfly effect, right? When something happens in one part of the world, right, it will cascade down to other parts of our lives. Okay, so there are always linkages. So these people can see the big picture, but they also see the relationship between different things happening. They may be generalists. Some people call them generalists because they are very good at a few selected areas. So some people say that they are generalists. But the key thing here is that they are good at more than one thing. They are good at more than one thing. Okay? They are able to synthesize and integrate things. They bring things together because they see the linkages. They're able to see what are the pitfalls. They bring it together. And they use different skills and different knowledge to solve problems. Right? They use different skills and different knowledge to solve problems. they are really open to new things, new experience. They're not going to say, "Oh, I don't want to do this because I'm not used to it, and I don't want to do something like this because I feel uncomfortable." They like new experiences, okay, and they're very sensitive to what's happening around them. Okay, so imagine those are people who were in the times of the Renaissance. Okay, there's so many things happening. All the creative people in the Renaissance, they were reacting to their surroundings. The surroundings were what? They have an economic boom. They have new cultures coming, so they were all reacting to this as well. Very sensitive to new surroundings. Left and right brain. So it's not just about being logical, but it's also about being creative. Okay. And this one I like, especially important, and it is relevant to today's times and also to what we said earlier. They will use and they will apply whatever new technology that's happening here. They will use and they will apply whatever new technologies that's happening here. So instead of being fearful about all the new things that are coming, they are able to say, why not I use this for my benefit? Why not I use this for my benefit? Okay. Another thing I want to ask all of you. Nowadays, there's a lot of emphasis about skills, correct? Right? Government and I know a lot of people are saying, I need to learn this new skill, I need to learn that new skill and all that. My question to you is this: is specializing in a particular skill good for our careers or not? What do you guys think? Is specializing in something very specific good for our career progress? Is it yes or no or maybe? What do you guys think? Okay, some say yes. Any others? Some say no. Quite a few people say yes. For short term, yes. Okay. Depends on the field, but still needs to be a generalist. Maybe I won't call it a generalist. Okay. So the reason why I ask this, because a lot of my clients and a lot of people in the workshops like this actually generally come to me and say, what skills should I go for training for and all that sort of thing. Right. And the way I come to you when you ask me that question, if you ask me that question, right, essentially is how are you going to use those skills? Okay, how does this skill complement your existing skills? How does these skills complement your experiences? And how can you use these skills to solve problems? Those are the few questions I will ask. Okay, so it's not straightforward. Okay, it's not so straightforward. So learning new skills is not the magic pill that many people are thinking right now. I want to correct the impression. Learning new skills is not the magic pill that says that, oh, I learned this new skill, therefore I should be guaranteed a job. Or my career would jump from here. No. It's about a lot of other things, especially how it complements your existing experiences and skill sets and how you apply those skills to solve problems. Those are equally important. Okay, so you have to think about this. So many of you will probably have seen this particular concept, the I and the T. So I is like functionary discipline skills. You are very specialized in a particular area. So some examples here: CRM, search expert, mobile analytics. Okay, very strong, very specific in this. Then many people have said that, maybe T is better. T means what? T is like you know that particular skill set, but you apply it in different situations, which I think many people do. Many people do. Okay, so that's good. Now there's an even better one, which many people are talking about. I think some of you, I think Carol was mentioning polymath. Okay, is someone who is actually good in many different areas, and they are able to apply that knowledge across different situations. So those of you not familiar, so that's the M word. Okay, the M way of looking at how you develop your skill set. All right, and really at the end of the day, this M is really helping you to apply a combination of skills and experiences you have to solve the problems at hand. Okay? So that's why I keep coming back to this notion, right? For my clients and workshop participants like yourselves. Okay? I I instead of looking at what skills I need to have, I would rather you look at how you use your skills and experiences to help solve problems, which means you have to understand what problems you can solve with the skills and experience you have. Okay? So that is the key thing. And if you learn new skills, how will that help you solve other problems? Because once you know how to solve problems, you can help people. And once you can help people, you will be in demand. Okay? Not a difficult concept. Okay. So now if you look at the M word, the M word, when you have a lot of different skills that you are good at, right, and you apply in different areas, what do you think are some of the positive impressions that you give to other people? When you are a person with an M approach to their skill set and experience, what do you think are some of the positive things that people will say about you? Any idea? Open-minded. What else? Any other things? Open-minded is good because you're open to new experiences. Resourceful, interdisciplinary. Any other ways? Versatile. I like this. Versatile. Yeah. So multifaceted. That means you're able to look at different things. You're able to do a lot of different things. Yeah. So essentially, a lot of good things, right now, right? So okay, jack of all trades. Sometimes people don't think of it as a good, but I think it's good because you're able to do a lot of different things. You're flexible. You're creative. You're resourceful. You're self-reliant because you know what to do. You know where to go and look for things, and you like to try new things. You like to learn new things. Adventurous, I like that. Adaptable, agile. Carol said as well. Now, obviously, there's always the flip side, right? So, what are the negative things? What are negative things that you would tell you would? What are negative impressions that you will give to other people if you are a very strong M person? What do you think are the negative things? What do you think are the negative things? Any idea? Stubborn, master of none, domineering could be, right? Domineering, fickle minded. Wow. Okay. What else is there? Fickle minded is it's interesting thing. Yeah. So essentially, if you look at it, like, it can create a negative impression, right? So master of none. In other words, you don't specialize in anything. Again, I'm not so sure whether that's a bad thing. Right? This one, interesting. Some people say because you cannot focus. Judy said you cannot focus, therefore you don't have commitment to a certain thing. Could happen. Could happen. Loner, right? Because maybe people don't understand you. People don't understand you. Okay, so you prefer to do things alone, right? I've come across people who are so good at what they do, right? They prefer, in fact, not to work in a team. They prefer to rely on themselves. Okay, and they want to do everything. They don't like to let go. They don't like to delegate because they can't trust other people. Yeah, correct, right? JL says hard to delegate tasks. Okay, so if you are, you know, from the one hand, I say, oh, we all should develop an M approach to things, but then there are so many negative things. So our challenge is actually to move from the negative to the positive. Okay, and there are ways to do this. But before I touch on that, there's also this thing about, have you heard of this term, dreamers? I addressed this in the last workshop, but I want to re-emphasize this again. When we are talking about dreamers, okay, is it a negative or a positive? What do you guys think? Usually when people say you are a dreamer, it's usually what? It's usually more negative, right? Right? Usually lah, okay. Some people say it's both, but tendency is that when people say you are a dreamer, yeah, people tend to think that it's not really a very nice thing to say. Okay, so what is it about a dreamer that people say is negative? What is it about a dreamer that people say is negative? Okay, daydream only. Wai Ying said dreamer, no actions. Yeah, unrealistic, no dream, no hope. Uh, but essentially, all talk, like NATO, right? No action, talk only. Okay? Basically, there's no action. Okay? So when you have no action, then you're right. You are a dreamer. But dreamers also have a place, right now. Dreamers over because they are people who are very good at dreaming up new things. They conceptualize, right? But they depend on other people to implement. Okay, so dreamers are also good within a team context. Okay, but if you are a dreamer, if you say that you are a dreamer, you like to think of new things, right? Maybe the thing here is this. Yeah, good to dream, good to conceptualize, but what happens next? What happens next? Do you implement or do you get someone to implement for you? Because if you get someone to implement for you, then you need to be part of a team that does that, because you alone won't be able to do it effectively. Okay, so then let's say if I summarize this, what are the signs of an innovative mindset? What are the signs of an innovative mindset? Essentially very simple. The ability to see beyond and question the normal way of doing things, the traditional boundaries, the traditional borders. In fact, some people say that sometimes these people are a lot more playful. Okay, they're a lot more proactive. They like to go out and do things. They like go out and take action. Okay, they integrate things rather than divide things. So they bring things together, right? Sometimes even things that are opposite, they will try and say, how can we bring this together, right? And they do this by maybe drawing, connecting across many different areas. Okay, so that's why they're more open. As some of you mentioned that they're more open. Okay, they're open to new experiences. Right? They are very sensitive to the surroundings. They are very sensitive to different people's requirements and needs. Okay, so that is very, very important. Okay, but I think lastly, which is by something that differentiates, right, people with an innovative mindset from dreamers, is really the ability to take action, the ability to take action and commit to this action, and commit to this action. This is so important. The reason why I put it as the last thing is because I want to emphasize this as the last and most important part. Okay, so if you want to differentiate yourself from just being a dreamer, right, then you need to be able to take action yourself or get someone to take action for you. Yeah, but you must be committed to it. Okay, so we spent the last few minutes talking about what are the signs of an innovative mindset. The next section is on how you develop the innovative mindset. Okay, time now is almost 3 o'clock. Okay, so we've been talking and doing this for almost an hour now. All right, so why don't we take a short break, a 10-minute break? Okay, and then once the break is over, we'll come back and talk about how we actually develop an innovative mindset. Is that okay? All right, so let's take a 10-minute break and then we'll come back in a little while. I see you soon. So we spent the last hour or so talking about the why and the what. Okay, so let's go into the meat and potatoes of it. How do we develop this innovative mindset? Okay, so that's what we'll talk about in the next few minutes. All right, so in essence, how do we get all these things here? Okay, so I'm actually going to tell you two approaches. Okay, and they are not competing or mutually exclusive. In fact, I feel that they support each other. Okay, so the first approach is here, where I'm going to give you a framework for those of you who like a very structured approach. Okay, this is the framework that I found best demonstrates or best gets you to think in a very different way. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about that. But at the same time, after that, I'm also going into this particular bubble points that you see here. Okay, and maybe these are more not so much a framework, but more a process, more approach, the way you look at things. Okay, so I think they are mutually supportive of each other. So please don't consider it's one or the other. Take it that it is based on supporting each other. Is that okay? All right, so let's talk about this process, this framework first. This framework first. Okay, now you will have heard of this so-called design thinking principle, right? Lots of information. In fact, there are some workshops out there as well that talks about this, and there are many experts out there. Okay, I want to bring you through a process by using a personal example to illustrate the key points in this design thinking process. Right? When I actually went about to solve the problem that I'm going to share with you now, I really didn't think of it as a framework that's design thinking, but on reflection, when I went back again, I found that hey, it's actually the same process. Okay, so I'm going to try and use that as an illustration to show you how this framework can work for you in the way it worked for me. Okay, so you can see here it's circular. This process is circular. It means that it's reiterative. Okay, one is linked to the other, but at the same time, once you finish the last part, it doesn't mean it's the end. You can still come back to it. You can still come back to it. Okay, so what is the issue? What is the problem I was trying to overcome? Okay, so essentially, those of you who have been with me in my workshops before, you will know that I've actually been doing online workshops way before this lockdown period. In fact, I've been doing webinars, hybrid, and all that since, well, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago when I first started my coaching business. Okay, and I've actually used Zoom before it was famous as Zoom. All right, so when the lockdown came on, okay, it was actually not difficult for me to switch entirely into using this format. Wasn't difficult at all, right? Because many people were not used to it, so I had to go easy, right? So you can see here, this is the traditional way of anybody sharing the Zoom webinars or Zoom presentations, right? Okay, so back in time when back in 2020 when the lockdown came on, so many people suddenly went into all these things. Okay, which is fine. Everybody was starting to sort of trying to get used to this format. Right? Initially, it was 1 hour webinars, then 2 hours, then somewhere into the whole day session. I've conducted whole day sessions before. Many people were not used to it. So, what was the problem? What was the problem? When at the end of 2020, I started to realize that, you know, everybody was on Zoom. Everybody went through webinars, sessions like this. Everybody saw things like this. So all of you would have become blasé and say, alamak, another session lah, same lah, sharing slides like this. And then many of you will probably have fallen asleep. I know I have fallen asleep to many of these webinars. I have indeed. Okay? So I had to think of a new way of doing things. I had to think of a new way of doing things. So what was the issue? The issue was then because you guys have been to so many of these sessions, right? The ability to attract your attention, the ability to get you to learn new things is actually becoming worse and worse because you switch off basically because of this old way of doing things. So I had to do something different. I had to look at something different, the way of doing things. Okay. So I had to look at from your point of view as a user, somebody who attends webinars like this. I had to see how can you learn best? How can you absorb whatever's been shared to you in the best way? What did you need? Okay, so I had to use that define process. Right. Then I started thinking, what were other people doing? What were the best practices out there? What's happening out there? You know? So I started looking at what other people did. And the thing here is this, I didn't look at people who were doing the same webinars that I was doing. I looked at people who were in other industries. Can you guess what type of people did I look at to give me great ideas? Anybody, any ideas? What do you think? Who are the people that I tend to look for to give me new ideas? Anyone? Eh? Those of you who have been online and watched many online sessions before, you know that some of the most dynamic people online, okay, not so much singing like Ken, right? Most dynamic people who are sharing content online are essentially the YouTubers, the TikTokers, and all that, right? They basically they share content, but in a very different way. a very different way that attracts attention. Okay, some people may say it's gimmicky, but whatever call it, whatever it attracts attention. It helps retention. Okay, so I started looking at those practices. Then I started thinking, hey, those are very good, but then I got some things that I don't know how to do, or I got some things that I have gaps in. Okay, for example, my hardware, my computer wasn't powerful enough. I didn't know how to use the software. Okay, because there was some new software that's on show. I didn't know how to use it. Okay, so what did I have to do? Firstly, I built my own computer. That for those of you who are used to who know how to build computers and all that, to you is nothing. But to me, I'm 60 years old already. That time when I was doing it, I was 58. I had to relearn everything. Okay, so I learned how to build up my computer. Okay, whole thing, case, motherboard, GPU, RAM, everything inside, all I rebuilt. Okay, the other thing I had to do was learn the software. Okay, so this is a very particular software. So for example, now what you see me appearing with you in the screen itself is actually using that particular software. Okay, so I had to learn how to use it. I had to tweak the software. I had to do a lot of stuff in there. Okay, so then I started trialing. I started doing a prototype. Okay, I started developing a prototype. So this happened at the beginning of 2021. I started sharing all the new ways, all this type of format that you see now, not only in webinars like this, but also in my classes, because I teach people, I instruct people to become coaches. So I put it in those classes as well. And obviously, I had to spend a bit of time trying to improve things. Some were not as perfect as before. Okay, hardware was not as perfect as before. In fact, I had to upgrade my GPU. Okay, because it wasn't powerful enough. So I was trialing, but I was doing it. Right, I was actioning. I didn't sit back and still think about it. I had to do it. Okay, and I tested. You can see the testing there. I tested a lot of things. Right, so those of you in the old previous workshops, maybe about a year and a half ago, early 2021, you will see that I had some hiccups. Okay, so I started experimenting and I relearned a lot of things. I learned new things. I bought some more new hardware. Okay, and today I'm at a stage where right now I'm very, very comfortable in putting together all these animations, these new things, this new way of presenting information, right? To you guys, not only in the webinar format, but also in my instruction classes online. Okay, so some people say nothing beats being live one-on-one. True, but I'm getting as close as I can to the live sessions. That was my aim. That was my aim. Okay, so you see here, right? This is the process I went through. And it just so happened it was the design thinking process. So during all these things, I had to look at things from the customer point of view. That means you guys, what you needed. Okay. What was the best way? What are the best practices? Because I was doing this myself, because I didn't see any other instructors do it, I had to look at other people outside of the industry, right, to get new ideas. Okay, so I was open to new experiences, but I also had to action because I cannot just dream, right? I had to go and do things. I had to implement. I had to get my hands dirty. Tan Biling say, "Got take out course or not?" I never take out course. My teacher was YouTube. Right? Maybe that's why it took a bit longer, lah. Right? But I searched everything. Okay, I learned on my own. Right? And I was trying and fine tuning, and even up to today, I'm still fine tuning. I'm still fine tuning. So maybe next month when you come back to my workshop, maybe things are different. Okay, even for today's workshop, even though I've done this workshop in December, but even up to this morning, I came in and tweaked and fine tuned and redid a lot of stuff to present to you in a different way. Okay, so it's a reiterative process. Okay, so this was my personal example. Okay, so if you are interested in knowing more about
this so-called design thinking. There's a lot of things on the in the Google, but I came across this particular what is it session that's recorded on YouTube. Let me share that link with you. And I found it very, very useful because it gives a real good idea of an actual live design thinking workshop. So you can take a look at this. So let me just share this in the link so that you all can see this. Huh? Okay. So that the link to that workshop is in the chat box, right? So you can take a look at this, right, at your own time. Oh, by the way, just to let you know, when you drop off from the webinar today, the Zoom session today, you can actually save the chat. Okay, so don't worry, you can save the chat, and so all the links will still be there if you save the chat. Okay, right. So this was the framework. Okay, I'm not saying that this is the only framework, but I personally found it very useful to get myself to think in a very different way, to think in a more creative and innovative way to solve a particular problem. Okay, so you can use that as well. Now, let's move on to the other portion. Okay, which is what? Which is a way of looking at things. So you see these bubbles here. So over the next 6 or 7 slides, I'm going to run through with you what is in each bubble itself. Okay, what is in each bubble itself. So, firstly, let's talk about the engine, the 机器. Essentially, I'm talking about attitude. Okay, what is the attitude we need to have to look at things in a very different way? Essentially, you could put it into a few points. This thing, rules are meant to be broken. I'm not saying that you go out and break rules and break the law and all that. But what I'm suggesting here is this. Instead of closely following between the lines, maybe you take a look at it. Can the lines be shifted or can the lines be modified somehow? Right? Can the rules be modified? Can the rules be tweaked? Okay? So rules are meant to be broken. Be curious about things, right? Don't just take things for granted and say, oh, that's how things are done. Okay, and I can't do anything about it. Why not try and see, hey, how are things done in other places, like what I did when I looked at other industries, other people who were really good at this. I use their best practices. Okay. Always embrace change. Don't be afraid of doing something different. Okay, I know sometimes this is very difficult for especially for people who are in more advanced age, right? But once you are able to embrace and look at change in a very positive way, believe you me, you will change your life. Okay, so take risk but calculated risk. Okay, so all depends on your risk appetite, but essentially take calculated risk. Okay, I like this one, and this is an advice I always tell even young people. So those of you who are young, young at heart as well, right? Don't be afraid to collect experiences, collect new experiences, go and do different new things, go by a different route to work, okay? Go by a different way, eat at a new restaurant, eat at a new food court, eat something different from what you normally eat. Collect the experiences, okay? Don't worry if things are not perfect at one go. Just imagine if in my problem for doing webinars like this, if I had to wait for the perfect solution, I probably wouldn't have done it at all. Or maybe I would have taken a much longer time. So don't be bogged down. Just go and do it. Okay. Use technology. Okay. So earlier on we talked a lot about Chatgpt and other similar AI technologies. Use it. Don't be afraid of it. See how it can help you. Okay. Dream by action. Okay. Dream by action. And I like this phrase. What would Jeff do? What would Jeff do? Do you know who is Jeff Bezos? Do you know who is Jeff Bezos? If you know who is Jeff Bezos, can you type into the chat box? Who is Jeff Bezos? Anyone? Who is Jeff Bezos? Bezos. Bezos. Yeah. Amazon founder. Now, I know of a company, an organization in Singapore. I wouldn't name it because I think you probably might know who it is. But that company wanted to get its colleagues to think in a very different and creative way. And they used Jeff Bezos as a role model because they liked the way Amazon developed, right? So they were saying, every time you have a problem, what would Jeff do to solve that problem? So I thought that was a very nice and creative way of getting people to think in a very different way. Right? So if you have an idol, if you have an 偶像, you have someone who you admire and respect, if you come across a problem and you are stuck, maybe you can say, hey, what would Jeff do? Or what would Elon do? Okay, or what would Mark do? Okay, so think of it that way, and then maybe that will get you out of your box, out of your box. Okay, so essentially, if you look at it, it's really about trying something different. So what will happen if you try this differently? Okay, so I'm gonna give you some suggestions for each bubble. I'm gonna give you some suggestions as to how we can enhance this. So why don't you try this at home? Okay, when you've done something successful in a different part of your life, right? Can you bring that to your job or your career? Okay, or maybe from a different industry that you worked previously, can you bring that into your current industry? So for my example here was that when I was in the IT industry, I was working with Big Blue, and Big Blue at the time was very strong in account management. Okay, very good, and a lot of discipline there. I shifted over to FMCG. I basically took what I learned in Big Blue and put it into FMCG account management because I was in sales. I moved into sales at that time. Okay, so I basically said, hey, this thing works in the IT sector. To what extent can I use this in the FMCG sector? And I basically changed and put it there. Again, similar thing when I shifted into higher education management, I basically said, what did I do? What could I bring from the other industries that I was and bring it to education management and make it successful there? Okay, so what would you do? What would happen if you try and do this differently? What did you do successfully in other places? How can you bring it to what you are doing now? Okay, so in essence, you're talking about breaking the routine or breaking things that you normally do. Just the other day, I experimented. Instead of driving the normal way, I will back to home after buying dinner. I went about a different way. Minor, right? Minor thing. But when you do things differently, it gives you a fresh perspective. Then when I drove a different route, I started to see different things along the way. Okay. Another way to break the routine is what? Why not you from today onwards, or if you want tomorrow onwards, every day, say something nice to someone you know. Whether you like the clothes they wear, whether you like their behavior, just say something nice. Break your routine, right? And maybe sometimes you have to crack your head to think about something nice, right? Can you imagine? When you say something nice to someone, not only does that person feel good, you also feel good, and your endorphins and all start coming, juicing yourself with endorphins, and you feel better, and you start thinking in a very different way. Okay, so break the routine, break the routine. Are we okay with this one? All right. So it's a way of thinking. It's a way of going about your daily business. Okay. Next bit I want to talk about is learning. Is learning. Okay. So there is this thing about having a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. Okay. So let's talk about the fixed mindset. Can you tell me? Type into the chat box. What are the signs of a fixed mindset? What are the signs of a fixed mindset? Can you type into the chat box? What are the signs of a fixed mindset? Resistant to change? Anything else? Dislike, stubborn, narrow-minded, following rules, okay? Giving up, apathetic. Any other signs of having a fixed mindset? Black and white, okay? Always nothing is blur, right? Don't accept challenge, not flexible. So, in other words, very negative, right? When people tell you you have a fixed mindset, essentially they are saying that you are very negative. Okay? So essentially what are the signs? You can see here. Okay? you don't like challenges, you don't like new things, you are threatened by the success of other people. Wow, that's a big sign already. Okay. You don't like to put in effort because you don't think the effort will become successful for you. You give up easily. All those are signs of a fixed mindset. Okay. What about a growth mindset? What about a growth mindset? What are the signs of a growth mindset? I guess you can say it's opposite of the fixed mindset lah. But what do you think are the signs of a growth mindset? Do you have a growth mindset? Can you type in the chat box? What do you think is a growth mindset? Solution to every problem, eager to learn, adaptable to changes, yeah, open-minded, willing to learn, being creative, right? Looking at things in a very different way, right? Learning can improve your skill. Okay, opening up, receptive. Yeah. Okay. You all know this. We all know this. Right? Growth mindset is always seen as positive because we are adaptable. Right? Challenges is an opportunity. Okay. Learning is always positive. Okay. So we always think that, you know, we learn from our mistakes and we embrace challenges, setbacks, and obstacles with new ways of looking at things. Okay. We invite feedback. We are not afraid of people telling us their opinions because we learn from this. Okay. Learning is a lifetime effort. It is not just about learning in school. So, towards the end of this, all right, one of the things that I'm going to urge you to do, if you are so concerned about AI and new tech, go and learn about it. Go and make the effort, learn about it, and know about it, and see what you can do to use it. Okay. And really, you know, we are at the age where learning is so easy. It's so easy now because, like just now, someone mentioned, right? How do I learn this? Did I go for a course to do my this new way of presenting? No, I learned it all from YouTube, internet. Okay, and the internet is such a powerful platform for us to learn. Okay, so it is not just about attending as many courses as you can. Okay, it is also about you taking the initiative to go out and search and learn by yourself. Okay, so that's not just about attending courses. Udemy, yeah, Udemy is also a very good platform as well. Okay, but the key thing here is this: you have to make the effort to learn. Okay, please, that is the main message here. Okay, so we've talked about learning. Okay, where essentially it is a growth mindset. So, what can you try? What can you try? Maybe talk about this. Think about a past mistake that you have done. What did you learn from it? How did you leverage on that? Right? That's one way to try, right? What mistake did you do and what did you learn from it? Making mistakes is not the problem, right? It's the fact that you don't learn from it that's the problem. Okay, so don't be afraid of making mistakes. Another way to try, identify a new skill you can learn to help you in your career or job. I put up Chatgpt or AI as an example. There could be other examples that you can learn. Okay, so learn something new. How can this help you in your career or in your job? Okay, so that's all about a growth mindset. Are we okay with this? All right. So we spent the last few minutes basically looking at the engine, the attitude, as well as learning, being having a growth mindset. Now, this is something that a lot of people have asked me. Maybe you yourself are now thinking of this. What about the organization? What about the place that we are at right now? You know, what happens if my organization doesn't allow me to be creative, doesn't allow me to be flexible and all that? Can you think of any organizations that encourages creative and innovative thinking? Can you type into the chat box? What organizations do you know that encourages its people to be creative and innovative? So Google is always the first one that comes up, right? Any others? 3M, I like that. Okay, most technology, but any non-tech, Any non-tech companies, HP, Apple, LinkedIn. Okay, yeah, good. Lego, I like that. Lego. Ah, very good. So what do these Citibank, yeah, could be Citibank as well, right? I heard DBS also very good, very innovative. Okay. So what do these things have in common? What do these companies have in common? No, you talk about Google, you talk about Citibank, you talk about 3M. What do these places have in common that encourages innovation? What do you guys think? What do they have in common that encourages innovation and creative thinking? What do you think? Right? Okay, some people say culture, they like to improve experiences, they allow for mistakes. I like that. They allow for mistakes. What else? They gather feedback. Maybe do a lot of things on project. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, project based, customer centric. I like this, customer centric. They determine who they are. Okay, some of them may not be MNCs, no. So it's not just MNCs who have innovative and creative. I would argue that the smaller SMEs basically need to be more innovative and creative. Work environment, new products and startups, employee centric, people first organization. So essentially, if you look at it, these organizations really promote learning, correct or not? Right? Not only learning, I don't mean just sending you for courses, but they also learn to adapt the processes, they learn new ways of doing things. Okay? They promote learning. Okay? They like people who solve problems, who can solve problems. Okay? So that's why I keep coming back to this notion of being a problem solver. The structure of the organization is very collaborative. They encourage teamwork. Okay, so it's not silo based, but they always have something to allow people to work together to solve problems. Okay, so they are very solution focused. I think someone mentioned that, so they're very solution focused. And this last part, accepting mistakes, I put as a question mark. You know why? Right? Organizations that accept mistakes is not the the policy. They don't have a policy that tells you it's okay, you make mistake, that's your policy. No. What they do is that they tolerate the mistake so long as you learn from the mistake and don't do it again. Okay? So this thing about not afraid to fail is true, but you have to learn the lessons from failure. That is more important than tolerating failure or accepting mistakes. Is the ability to learn from it so that we can improve. Organizations that are very innovative allows that process. Okay, so what do we do? What do we do? If you are working in an organization or you are going to choose an organization to work in, okay, why don't you try this? Why don't you identify things that in your environment that allow you to do things differently? Now, some of you may say, cannot lay, my organization doesn't allow me to do this. So you have two ways to do it. One, okay, you have to make a choice whether that's the organization for you for the long term. But I would suggest another way is to really dissect your role in your organization and say, which part of my job, which part of my organization allows me to learn better, allows me to do things in the way I would like to do. Maybe that's another better way of looking at the company that you're working in. Okay, so for those of you who are looking for a new company, then the implication here is this: you need to what? You need to do your legwork and research on the organization. Does the organization work for you? Okay, so that's the legwork. That's right. So three down, two to go, or is it three more to go? Okay, so here I need to talk about looking at the big picture. Looking at the big picture. It's really about looking at what is the real problem. What is the real problem? Okay. So what is the cause of the problem? I just came across this example I saw a couple of days ago of this guy. Do you know Henry T. Ford, the guy who invented the car? Who invented the car? It was said that Henry T. Ford didn't like focus groups to develop the product. You know why or not? Because he actually he didn't want to interview people and say, what do you need? What do you need? What products do you need? He didn't go about doing that, right? He basically dig deeper to look at what is the real problem. Because if you look at it, if he asked people at that time, right, early 20th century or late 19th century, what do you need? You know what most people would say, right? They will probably tell you they need a faster horse. Correct or not? Right? So if Henry T. Ford did that, the car would not have been invented. He would just be focusing on how you enhance the capability of the horses. Right? So here, a lesson learned is what? You focus on what is the real issue here. Is the real issue getting a faster horse, or is the real issue getting from point A to point B in a faster and more efficient way? See, you look at it differently, right? So the pandemic has forced many organizations and many people to do things differently because they got no choice. Right? So similarly, Henry T. Ford, when he was coming out of the new car, he really had little choice, so he had to develop something, otherwise he'll go bankrupt. Okay, so if you had no other choice to do this or go out of business, what would we need to do to make it happen? So there are many examples during the pandemic of companies changing their business models to adapt with the times. So doing it differently. Okay. So identify what the challenge is and doing things differently. So in other words, you have to look at the big picture, really understand what is the real issue here. Okay. So for example, in my case, my example, if I were just saying, how can I develop my presentation so that my workshops are more effective? Chances are, if I didn't look at it this way, I would say maybe I learn more new PowerPoint slides, the new way of presenting PowerPoints and all that. No, but instead I looked at it and said, what is the platform to share information? How can I share information, present information in a way that people can retain, can keep attention? Okay, so it's not just PowerPoint slides. Okay, so why don't you do this? Another way to try is what? Pick an established process that's used a lot and think of ideas as to how you can streamline or improve this. Okay. If you look at the link to the design thinking workshop that I shared with you, right, in the chat box, you will see that the workshop was talking about how they went about reinventing the wallet, the normal wallet that guys carry. Okay. Why don't you take a look at that? Right? And see that, wow, that's a different way of looking at things. Because they took something that was established, a wallet, and they looked at it and say, can we do things differently? So it's another way of looking at it. So that's a good example. All right. Okay. Last two things here. This is, those of you who are football fans, you will know what this is. Okay. Basically, this is, you'll never walk alone. Right. So what do I mean by this? Essentially, when you are trying to be innovative, you're trying to do things in a different way, you can do it alone, yes, but really essentially one of the best ways to do things is to involve other people, talk to other people. Okay, get ideas from other people, bounce ideas off each other. That is such a effective way of doing things. Okay, and one of my favorite platforms for doing this is actually looking at anything that's got this word hacker in it. So you join all the chat groups or the Facebook groups or whatever groups you have, and all these groups, let's say for example, you can this thing about the hackers and all, they look at what's available and they change the way it's done, and sometimes it comes out as totally different things. It comes out in totally different things. Okay, so hackers. Okay, okay. All right. So when we are working and involving other people, really is about not only getting other people's ideas and best practices and co-creating. I like this thing about accountability, because when you're working in a team, you're accountable to each other, and that motivates you to do things in a more positive way, more progressive way, right? Because you have to tell people, this is what I did, other people will tell you this is what they did. Okay, so accountability is important. Okay, now normally when I do this workshop, right, live, I normally get people to work in teams to do something and to develop something. But in this case, since we are in an online workshop, I can't do that. So here is something maybe you can try on your own. Okay, talk to someone from a different industry or different department or a different role and ask them, you have this problem. How can they, what would they do if they had this problem too? What would they use to solve this problem? Just talk to people, essentially. That's the whole idea. Okay, just talk to people and get their ideas as well, because you never know, maybe they will tell you something, you have a light bulb moment and say, oh yeah, I can do this too. Okay, so try it, just try it. Okay, the last one, health. I don't need to talk too much about health. You guys know how important your health is. Okay, that if nothing else, the last 2.5 years would have told you, right, keeping healthy is probably one of the priorities in life that we must have. Okay, so essentially having a healthy body gives you a healthy mind. Okay, and this will help generate your ability to be more creative and innovative. Okay, so commit. I think this one is something I don't really need to say. I hope you're already doing this. It's basically exercise. Okay, at least 3 times a week, at least 30 minutes each time. Okay, exercise, keep healthy. All right. Okay, so I spent the last, I think almost half an hour talking about all these bubbles. All right. So, and at the end, it is about these two frameworks that we're having here. One is a very structured approach where it's reiterative, right? You have certain elements that tell you, okay, you can do this to understand your customer. This is, what is needed out there. How can we generate new ideas? Okay, whether it's by myself, or in my case, I was by myself, or you can talk to other people, coming up with something that is a prototype, but doing something. Okay, don't just sit on your butt and think about it. Do it, test it, refine it, all right, and then maybe revisit and see whether it meets the needs that you first identified. Okay, so that is a framework that you can use. Then complementing this is really a way of thinking. Okay, your attitude, your growth mindset, choosing the right organization, or identifying what aspects of the organization that you are in that allows you to do things like that the way you want to do. Okay, looking at the bigger picture, understanding what is the real issue, working with different people. Okay, and keeping healthy. Keeping healthy. All right, let's round this off. Okay, let's round this off. So I'm going to talk about how you can showcase your innovative mindset in your job search and your career. All right. So the first underlying principle is very important. I need you all to understand this. And those of you who've been to my workshops before, you will see this ad nauseum. Okay. Employers are risk averse. They don't like to take risks when they're hiring people new to the job, or when they have you on their payroll. Okay. So at the end of the day, it's not about you, no. It is about how you can help them. Okay, so that is the underlying principle that we need to understand first before we sort of say, oh, I want to highlight this, I want to highlight that. Okay, it is not about how good you are, it's about how you use what you are good at to help other people. Okay, so that is the key thing here. All right, so you all have seen this. You all have seen this, right? The negative impressions, the positive impressions when you are demonstrating very innovative or creative way of doing things. So your challenge here is to really move from the negative to the positive. And the best way to move, create that shift is really to make sure that you are an asset and not a risk. So, in other words, you have to communicate the fact that you have the skills and the experiences and the competencies to solve their problem. To solve their problem. Okay? So, that is again, something to consider. So when you're looking at your resume and your interview, okay, when you're trying to find a new job, all right, generating resume and interview, some key things you need to understand first. Okay. Obviously, this is something that everyone must do. You have to customize both your resume and the way you talk to your during the interview to address what is the company's immediate problems. Okay. That is something that you have to address. Some of you may ask, how do I find this out? Well, remember what I said? You have to be proactive, right? Which means what? You have to do your research about the company. Okay? It's not so no longer the case where you have to sit back and just, oh, okay, I just create a generic resume and then make sure that everybody reads it. No, no longer the case already. You have to customize it. Okay? Highlight whatever you can do in accomplishment. So don't put down, don't describe what you do. Rather, focus more on what you have completed, what you have achieved. That means your accomplishments. Okay? So in the resume, you got to use keywords that show action, problem solving, independence. So things like spearheading, predicting, recognize, create, all those keywords, action verbs. Okay? You have to show results. Okay, you have to show results. Okay, show results. Get an example here, as many numbers as you can have. Okay, and these results have to be relevant to the company that you're applying to. No point telling people you have achieved item A, but the company is looking for somebody who can achieve item B. All right, so always remember that. Interview, same principle. Okay, so before your interview, you brainstorm what can you show during the interview that tells people you are creative, that you are a team worker, that you think you anticipate things. You got to show examples. Okay, so during the interview, when you're sharing these examples, use a STAR approach: situation, task, action, results. Okay, lots of information on Google. Here, when you're talking about these things, right, you can emphasize how you overcame the problem by doing things in a different way, or by looking at things and saying, oh, I've tried this, it didn't work, so I tried something else, it worked. Okay, so multiple solutions, your flexibility in approaching things, how you collaborated with other people. Okay, emphasize those things, and that will tell the person sitting in front of you and saying, wow, Eileen has got a very good way of solving problems. She's very creative, she's very innovative, she can talk to people, she can work with people. Okay, overall, really, there are few things that can help you in terms of your career. All right, firstly, I always emphasize is this: if you really want to stay on in a company or in a job for a long time, right, make sure you do the legwork and find the organization that suits you. Right, don't take it for granted that the company, like famous, automatically will suit you. No, it may not suit you. The culture may be different from you, so you have to find out. Okay, be very clear about how you can help that company. So what are your problem solving skills? What are the problems you can solve, rather? Okay, so you have to go through the notion. I don't have time to go through this here, but I mentioned this in my other workshops before. Essentially, knowing what are the skills and experiences you have, identifying how you use those skills and experience to solve the problems that you have done before. So those are the problems you can solve. Okay, prepare to show it when you are in a situation. Show it. Okay, show what you can do. If you've got a LinkedIn profile, prove it. Okay, whether you're writing articles, whether you references or recommendations from other people that says that you have done this and you've done it well. Okay, don't worry so much about things you can't control, because there are lots of things that we cannot control, and don't get angry about those things. Focus on what you can control. That is so much more better, right? Better for your blood pressure. If you are really passionate about something, find a way to combine that passion to complement your career, but not to challenge or substitute this. I'll give you a very good example. I used to have a client who was a lawyer. He really didn't like lawyering. Okay, he was what do they call it? The time he was dealing a lot with contract and property transactions and all that. Okay, conveyancing, right? I think it's conveyancing. Okay, but his passion was what? Acting. His passion was drama. So he came to me and said, Ewan, should I quit my job and look at something that allows me to do that? Then I told him, why do you need to quit? Can't you do something that allows you to do both? So we looked at different options. And at the end, he still continued his lawyering, okay, his day job. He compensated for his day job frustrations by doing drama in his off hours. So he joined a drama group. Okay? He's actually now very successful. No? He's now very successful in doing both. Okay? So it's not just about you quitting and saying, oh, this job doesn't suit me because I don't like it. Yes, you can quit. But what are the alternatives? Look at the other alternatives first. Okay? If you're really passionate about something, consider how can you use your passion to complement what you do. Okay? I hope that those tips are useful for you. Okay, so let me summarize everything from what we've discussed over the last couple of hours. Okay, so we spent the last hours, just over 2 hours, going through these 4 points here: why, what, how, and some of the tips that I just mentioned earlier on. Okay, so here, if you're talking about why, essentially you want to future proof yourself. Why develop a creative or innovative mindset? You want to future proof yourself, right? You want to be an asset to whoever you're working for. Okay, you want to be an asset. Right? Then what are the signs of being innovative? Essentially, this basically the ability to see new ways, new opportunities, new possibilities. Okay, and just by doing things slightly differently. Right? But the focus here is on what? Action. Because by being an action man, you solve problems. Okay, so you use your ability to solve problems. So really, that is the key thing here. No point being innovative, being creative, it's if it's not meant to help other people. Okay, so you have to look at it that way. How? I shared about this framework that you can use, design thinking, lots of information out there, but essentially it is a framework to get us to look at things in a different way from different perspectives. It's a framework to get us off our butt to look at what other people are doing, to look at how can we generate new possibilities. It is a framework to get us off our butt in terms of doing things, developing a prototype, testing it, continually refining it. Hopefully it meets the needs that you have identified. Okay. The other process that I discussed was really the bubbles you see here. Okay. It is about getting the right attitude. It is about having the growth mindset. Okay. It is about making sure that the organization that you are in or want to be in is the right one for you. Okay. It is about looking at the big picture, understanding what is the real problem and doing things in a different way to help you solve that problem. It is about working with other people, talking to other people to generate new ideas, to get accountability, to co-create. It is about being healthy. A healthy body is a healthy mind. Underlying all this is really making sure that you are an asset. Whatever frame of mind you have, innovative frame of mind, creative frame of mind, right, is no use if you are not seen as an asset. Okay? So all the negative perceptions of someone who's creative is like he's a master of none. He is not committed and all that. Those are risks. So you have to translate all those things and move people to the positive box and say, hey, this guy can help me, all right, and this guy can help me solve my problem. Okay. All right. Those are the topics I have for today. All right, it is about filling in the feedback form. Okay, so I will share the link in the chat box with you now. It's in the chat box, so please do help me fill this up. Now you will also see future dates for the future workshops that I have. Please note that on 16 May is a live workshop. It's a live workshop, so places are limited. So please do sign up early for this. So let's move on to the final part, which I think many of you are staying back to get hold of, which is how to get access to the video. Okay, so here it is, right? Essentially, what I need you to do to help me send the video link to you, all right, is to fill up this form. I'm going to put the link in the chat box. Okay, so what happens when you fill up this form is that it gives me permission to send that video link to you in the form of a newsletter. Okay, so I'm only going to send one newsletter a month. Okay, so this month, March, I have not yet sent because I'm going to incorporate this latest video plus an earlier workshop I did 2 weeks ago on the hidden market. So the next newsletter you receive will actually have 2 workshops inside that. Okay, so if you want to have the link to those 2 videos, this one plus the earlier one, please fill this up. Then I will send this to you hopefully by maybe middle or end of next week. Okay, so I'll do that. All right. Now, if you feel that, other than this, you don't want to receive anything from it, by all means, it's okay. You just unsubscribe. Very easy. Okay, so I leave it up to you. Now, in that newsletter, I'll also tell you other things that I'm doing as well. All right. So, okay. So that is the video link, right, to today's workshop as well as the earlier workshop in March. Now, those of you who are keen on continuing to discuss with me on your career and other issues, I'm going to suggest a few other ways to do this. Obviously, one is that you can connect up with me on LinkedIn. Okay, so you see the LinkedIn address there. Quite easy, LIMYW. Okay, you can do a search on that. Or you can actually go to my YouTube channel where I will put up some past workshops which I've done. All right, I continually change the videos to put in only the latest versions. Okay, so you can take a look at that as well as my Facebook group. Okay, so you can take a look at that. Alternatively, if you feel that you want to engage me as a coach, by all means do so. Okay, I only basically do in packages. I don't do individual coaching sessions. Okay, I'm doing packages. So if you want, you can go and take a look at my website, and then there's more information there. So I leave it up to you. Okay, so that's another alternative. Now, many a time after I've done workshops like this, there are many people who come to me and say, I want to learn to become a career coach. So if you really want to become a career coach and you're interested in getting something that's internationally accredited, okay, that means internationally credentialed, right? Again, you can go to the website and then basically look it up, right? There's a lot of information there, okay? But the thing here is that although there are many courses out there, I do things differently, as you know. Okay, so my classes are very small, maximum 6 people, and I think I'm the only one person who actually does it one-on-one for these courses. Okay, so very different. Okay, so those are the various ways you can do to keep in touch with me. Right, you can be as simple as just connecting out with me on LinkedIn. Any questions you have, just write to me, and I'll try my best to answer those for you. Okay, or to something as extensive as doing a course like this. Okay, now I think one of the things that I really need all of you to understand, and I'm going to emphasize this again as a final slide for you guys. Okay, we spent 2 hours talking about this, all right, this topic of innovative mindset, right? But this need to be proactive and do things rather than being passive It's not just about this particular workshop, but it's about your career in general. Okay, so please, don't take things for granted. Don't be passive about things, because your career is your responsibility. It's nobody else's responsibility. Okay, so if you need to do something to enhance your career prospects, all right, please do so. Okay, I've come across people who tell me, I don't have time to go for courses, I don't have time to take up skills, no money, whatever, all those things. Let me ask you this: how important is it for you? Okay, that is a question you need to ask yourself. I can't do it for you. Okay, I can't tell you you must go for this course. I can't tell you you must go for upskilling. At the end of the day, it's your own motivation. You have to ask yourself, how important is it for you? How can learning something new help you? Those are questions you have to answer. Right? And if it is important for you, then all those excuses that you see at the below here, you need to navigate them away. Okay, you need to navigate them away. Okay, so that's my 2 cents worth. I'm not trying to preach here, but I think I've come across a few people who basically give such excuses not to do anything. And, I think it's a waste. It's a waste of your talent. Everybody has a talent. It's a waste of your talent. Okay? Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for hanging around for the last 2 weeks. Sorry, 2 weeks, 2 hours. Okay, right. I hope you've gone through the things that I've shared with you. You found it useful. I hope that the pointers I gave to you, you are able to action it, because no point you not doing anything after you spend 2 hours here. Okay, so you should have the motivation to say, okay, after going through all this, you want to do something. Okay, so please, for I don't want to sound facetious, but get off your butt and action and do it. Okay, yeah, maybe Nike is right to say that, just do it. But at the end of the day, I really wish everyone the best in your efforts. Okay, because like I said, you are the driver of your own success. Okay, so please drive carefully, but drive forward. Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for hanging on. All right, be safe, be good. All right, take care of yourselves and take care of your family and the people around you. Okay, see you guys soon. Cheers.